Welcome to Getting Real. I am your host, Monick Halm, and on this show, we talk about the real parts of real estate investing, and we often bust myths and talk about things that people think are true but just aren't so. And today, I want to talk about the financial freedom formula. This is your roadmap for achieving financial independence. And we're going to cover some common myths about wealth building, important lessons for financial freedom, and a simple formula that can change the way you think about wealth. I'm really excited to share this with you. And I am going to share, I'm going to do my best to share my screen because I have a presentation for you guys. And hold on. This is live and figuring things out. Here we are. Created a fun presentation to show you guys. This is the financial freedom formula. And so, again, we're going to talk about 4 big myths about wealth and financial freedom that keep most people from truly building it. 4 financial freedom lessons. And we're going to conclude with the financial freedom formula. And then we'll conclude with our Trinity, which is how we end every show. But this is the basics. This is the meat of what we're doing today. Oops. All right. Let me get to the next slide here. All right. So, can you relate? You'd love to be able to get off the hamster wheel of having to trade your time for money. You want to have passive income streams, but you don't know where to start. Can you relate to that? Or you're an entrepreneur who got into business for freedom, but your business relies heavily on you and it feels virtually impossible to get off the clock. Or potentially you have a job, but you feel like you're a slave to the 9 to 5. Or you want your money invested wisely, but you're scared to invest given all the uncertainty in today's world. You're also not sure who you can trust. If you relate to any of those things, then this is definitely the episode for you. And also, I want to share my story. I don't think I've really shared it yet on this podcast, and I want to share it so you have a sense of where I come from and why I'm teaching this. So I am the daughter of immigrants. I'm a first generation American. My parents are from Haiti. Haiti's been a lot in the news recently. Immigrants from Haiti, and we do not eat them. Anyway, um, uh, my parents are amazing, super loving, super supportive, and they're always like, Monique, you can be anything you want, but in parentheses, it's like as long as you're a doctor, lawyer, professor, or engineer, because for them that was what success was. And of those options, I chose law. So I went to Columbia Law School. This is me at my walking to my then law firm's Tokyo office. And I have a smile on my face, but I was really, really unhappy. And uh, to show how unhappy I am, I have to tell this story. So one Tuesday morning, I found myself in the ER. I went to the ER because I was having this excruciating abdominal pain. And the doctor told me that my appendix had ruptured and that I would have to be in the hospital for several days. I ended up being in the hospital for 9 days. And then I would be at home for at least 30 days afterwards to recover. So when he told me that, my first thought was, oh, thank God I don't have to go to work for at least 30 days. My next thought was, oh, wait, that's bad. Because I'd been doing quote unquote everything right. I'd done the Ivy League law schools and the big law firm partnership track path. I was doing all that I should have been doing to be happy and wealthy. and free, but I felt really miserable. And like I had these golden handcuffs. It was the opposite of financial freedom. So I had to figure out a different path. And it was a very circuitous way, but real estate ended up being that path for me. I got my first real estate property in 2005. And that was at a time towards the top of the last bubble. And the only thing I'd ever been taught about real estate was that at some point you should buy your own home. And I didn't know anything about investing. It was just buy a house, live in. And so I went to do that, but I live in Los Angeles, super expensive. And even way back then, almost 20 years ago, a starter home in a semi decent neighborhood, we're just talking about, not Beverly Hills or Bel Air, but a neighborhood where you're not likely to have a drive-by shooting kind of thing. Starter homes are upwards of $600,000, $700,000. So I ended up buying this property, in fact, where I could live in one unit. It actually has an upstairs that is a 2-bedroom apartment, and it had a converted garage in the back that was another 1-bedroom apartment. And we rented out the upstairs and we rented out the back house. We even rented out the basement room. And I somehow became a landlord. So that was how I got into real estate. And then, met my husband and got married. And when I was pregnant, my husband had a duplex. And when I um, got pregnant, my then boss, I had moved to a smaller firm, called me into his office, about a week after I told him I was pregnant. And I was expecting bonus because I'd been working so hard. And instead, I got fired. So I decided that I would wait until a little bit after I gave birth, take a short maternity period, and then I would find a new job. Well, my daughter was born in late August of 2008. Within a month, the economy was in free fall. It was a terrible time to find a new job. And it was actually a blessing because we were able to lean on that real estate that we had sold one and started to flip houses. And then we got into, we were doing that for a few years. And then in 2016, we learned about bringing investors together to purchase larger commercial properties. And we got a mobile home park, and these are just some of the properties that we got that year. Over 1,000 doors in our first year of partnering with other people, essentially crowdfunding real estate, and have been running ever since then. So, and then Real Estate Investor Goddesses was born from that, from being in that um, situation and just seeing so few women there. It came as this divine download to for Real Estate Investor Goddesses, not the how, but this mission to help 1 million women create financial freedom through real estate investing. So that is how that was born, and then the books and the podcast and all of that have happened since then. But so all of this to say that, especially when I lost my job and it was a terrible time in the economy. And it was when we had, and during that period in between the months that I decided I'd wait until after I gave birth. And then, we'd spent down most of our savings. So it was a really, really tough financial period. And I realized, we were definitely not financially free, and I had to do something different. And I went on this path to learn and to get into this different position where I was not stuck trading my time for money, having to be at a job that was toxic, that felt worse than being in a hospital with a life-threatening, excruciating illness. I knew there had to be a better way, and so I went on a path to find it. And this is what I want to talk about today. That what is that financial freedom formula? And so let's start by defining that. What is wealth? What is financial freedom? Wealth is what you own minus what you owe. So net worth is another way of describing that. So there, and one of the things I'm really passionate about is helping increase the net worth, especially of women. There is a terrible gender wealth gap in this country, a gender net worth gap. So for every dollar of wealth, of net worth that a single man has, a single woman only has 32 cents. So 32 cents to the dollar. People talk a lot about the income gap, gender income gap, but we don't hear much talk about the wealth gap, and that is really way more extreme. And it gets even worse when you factor in race. So for every dollar of net worth that a single white man has, a single Black or Latina woman has, guess, 32 cents, when you don't factor in race. When you factor in race, a single Black or Latina woman has less than 1 penny, less than 1 penny to that dollar. So I'm really passionate about helping erase that gender wealth gap, erase that racial wealth gap. But so wealth is, or net worth, what you own, your assets minus your liabilities, what you owe. It also means, I think, having enough to spend, to save, to invest, and give away to live the lifestyle you want, right? Having enough to spend, save, invest, and give away to live the lifestyle you want. That is wealth. Now, wealth and financial freedom, I think if you're financially free, that means you have enough passive income that you don't need to work. Your passive income equals or exceeds your expenses. At that point, you work because you want to, not because you have to. So that's my goal. When I say I want to help 1 million women create financial freedom through real estate investing, that's the benchmark. Expenses. What are your expenses? What are your expenses to live your current lifestyle? And then you have that financial freedom or financial independence. And then there's the how much does it cost to live that dream lifestyle, right? That's good. Your next level, absolute financial freedom. And so my goal is to get us to that first level, and then we move from there. But that is what financial freedom is. When you have enough passive income that you work because you want to, not because you have to, because your passive income is covering all your expenses. So financial freedom, your passive income equals or exceeds your expenses. So why is knowing how to build wealth important? Well, first of all, 57% of American adults have less than 1,000 in savings. 40% have less than $400 in savings. That means that, almost like 4 in 10 Americans, actually almost 6 in 10 Americans are basically one pink slip, one sickness, one like financial disaster, like one just one life occurrence, big accident from being financially devastated. And that is really terrible and something that we can fix. So let's talk about the myths around financial freedom. Myth one is you have to work really hard to have wealth and financial freedom. And financial freedom is not about hard work. It's about being smart and strategic. And we'll talk more in a little bit about what we need to actually do to build it. But it's not about working harder. It's about being smarter. It's about being a better steward of your money. It's about making different choices with what you got. So that's one myth. that we got to bust. And a lot of people think that, and they just be, if you think that you have to work harder, and especially if you're working really hard, you're, oh my God, I'm working so hard. And some people, poor things, I mean, they're like, a lot of people are working two, three jobs in their, or I was working so hard as a lawyer. I was working like, 80, 90, 100-hour weeks. And that was like, there's no more work in me. It was not going to happen. But it wasn't about working more. I work a lot less and, you know, for more results. Okay. Myth two is that you can no longer have Starbucks, right? Like the way to do this is, you're going to really tighten your belt and like you just, if you're if financial freedom is to have more passive income than your expenses, then you just have zero expenses and and you're there. Well, it's not one $4 latte that's going to make the difference, right? It's making just smarter choices overall. So we'll talk about that. And then myth three is that all debt is bad. There are some teachers out there that are like, no, you just have to pay for everything all cash, get rid of all your debt, and that's the path to building wealth. Now, I will say that there is definitely debt that is not helpful, and I am not a fan of unsecured debt, and I'm not a fan of going into debt for shoes and fancy cars and just we'll talk more about that. There are some things that it does make sense to use debt for, and a lot of things it does not make sense to use debt for. But debt can be debt, sometimes referred to as leverage, can be a really useful tool to help you build financial freedom. So it's just learning how do you use that tool, and that's part of the financial freedom formula. And myth four is to be wealthy means you have a big house and a fancy car, and the more money you make, the bigger your house and fancier your car, right? You look and it's like, we got the fancy crib and I got the gold chains and I got the gold teeth and I got the diamonds and the red bottom shoes and all of that. And that is wealthy. Well, that is not wealthy. That's having a lot of stuff, but that is not the path to creating financial freedom. It's really the opposite path. So we're going to talk about, what it is to create financial freedom. And then once you're financially free, you can have the fancy things. But those come from overflow and they definitely are not about debt. So let's get into it. Here are 4 lessons for financial freedom. One is that you want to create multiple income streams, mostly passive, and you reinvest your gains. So let me break that down a little bit. Multiple income streams. A lot of us are taught that, and I have this table here with one leg, a one-leg table there. And that is how most of us are taught about wealth. And I use that metaphor in this way. Financial security is like the top of your table, right? The tabletop is where you are financially secure. Each leg of your table is an income stream. And most of us are taught, you get a job, one job. I was taught get the best job I could, right? A job as a lawyer, or I could have gotten a job as a doctor or engineer or something like that, right? But a job, and that's the leg of your table. And if you get a really good, big, thick leg, a really good job, that's what I was taught. But you know what happens if you get sick or you get fired? Yeah, right? Your leg comes crashing down. Your leg breaks, your table comes crashing down. There went your financial security. I experienced that in 2008, 2009. It was devastating for us. Also, My husband had a graphic design business during 2009. His business went down 90%. So we had two legs of our table, right? We had my job and his business. And my job went away and his business went away 90%. So that was really bad for our table. Um, what we want, and there's this picture here of a table with probably 20 something legs, lots of legs. That is what you want, right? You remove one of those legs, that table is not going anywhere. It is sturdy. It is really, you can take 10 of those legs away and you're still going to be left with over 10 legs. It's really sturdy. And that's what you want to do to create financial freedom. You want to have a lot of legs under your table. So if one leg has to go away, then you have all these other legs that are sustaining you. And most of those legs should be passive. And by passive, as opposed to active income, you're not trading your time for money. So if somebody says, you know what, I have three legs because I have three jobs. Great. It's good. You lose one job, you still have the other two. But what happens if you can't work because you get sick or something? Then what do? All your legs are gone. So all your legs cannot rely on you. It's not about you trading your time for money. If you're trading your time for money, you are not financially free. So, or if you have to trade your time for money, you're not financially free. So you want most of those legs to be passive. And we'll talk about how you create passive income streams in a second. But you want lots of streams of income, multiple, and mostly passive. So this is a picture of the cash flow quadrant, which is something that Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, came up with. And on one side is on the left side, you see top left is E, that's an employee, right? An employee trades their time for money. They're employed by a business and they work and they get money. And then below that is self-employed. So somebody who maybe they have their own practice, a therapist or lawyer, or doctor, and they're also trading their time for money with their clients. Now, both the E's and the S's, they're trading their time for money, and they happen to get taxed more. Right? You're higher tax. So wealth is not just about what you make, it's about what you keep. So E and S are on one side of the cash flow quadrant, not on the side that's creating financial freedom, unless they're creating multiple income streams. Then on the other side, on the top right-hand corner, you have a business owner. So a business owner has employees. Now, a business owner might work in their business and also be an employee of their business, but they aren't necessarily an employee of their business. They might have other people that are working for them. So they are leveraged. They're not trading their time for money. They're paying other people to do the work. And there are also lots of tax benefits for that, for having employees. An I is investor. So as an investor, your money is off making money. It's also much more tax beneficial, and that is a very passive form of creating income. All right. So when we talked about business, whatever you love to do, if you were to figure out how to build a business around it, because if you can have a business, if you are going to do something and you have a business, that's a business has systems and employees. Having a business will allow you to make 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times what you'd otherwise make as just doing it as an employee. So that is think about being in that B quadrant. So let's talk about some types of investments if you're on the I. So you have real estate, which obviously I'm a big fan of, and that's why we're here and we're talking. So, which, once a tenant is installed and the expenses are paid, that's passive income. There you can have intellectual property. There's a picture there of my book, The Real Estate Investor Guy's Handbook, right? So every time I wrote that once, I did the work once. Now every time somebody buys it, and I get money from Amazon every month from people buying my books. All right. My son, he's a musician, and he gets money when people are listening to his songs, right? So that's a type of investment, intellectual property. And then you can have business and invest in other people's businesses. So stocks, you can invest in bonds. They're different types of investments. Those are the most common. Now, how does real estate build financial freedom? Let's talk about some of those ways. So one is passive cash flow. When you have a tenant, after expenses, what's left over is cash flow. That is not dependent on you trading your time for money. That gets paid every month, whether you're sleeping, working another job, on vacation, etc. There are federal tax benefits. I'll have a whole other show just about that. But just know that with real estate, you can be making money, but it looks like you are losing money for tax purposes. Leverage, that is, you can put in, a little bit of money, 5%, 10%, 5%, sometimes 0% down, and get a property. Let's leverage. Principal pay down. So as you have a loan on the property as leverage, and your tenant is paying you rent, and that's paying down principal on your loan, which helps grow your net worth, right? With this appreciation that happens just naturally over time. Real estate will tend to grow your net worth. It's one of the best ways to do that. 90% of millionaires are so through real estate, but also you can force equity and force appreciation by doing targeted rehabs. There's cash out refinance, right? You're putting money into you can put on a new loan. Let's say you have equity, you put on a new loan, you can pull out money, tax free. It's not a taxable event, and use that money to reinvest in other things. Retirement savings. Oftentimes people don't realize that you can use certain retirement accounts, self-directed retirement accounts, to invest in real estate, or just have real estate to help you be better set up for long-term retirement. And it's a feel-good business. It's the who's benefiting the sellers, the buyers, the agents, the insurance people, the contractors, the tenants. It's a ripple effect of prosperity. So that's why I love real estate. Which benefits are you most excited about? Share in the chat. Now, 2 is invest wisely and take advantage of compound interest. This is running a bit late, but I'm going to go fast now. So compound interest, there's a rule of 72, which is how many years of compound interest it will take to double your money. So the years equals 72 divided by the rate. So we'll give some examples. So let's say you have 50,000 in a bank account at 1% interest. And the average bank APY in the US is 0.48% today. So it's about double what most people are getting. So after 20 years at 1%, your 50,000 will have made $11,009.50. So you'll have $61,009.50. And that 1% interest, how long will it take you to double your money? It will take 72 divided by 1, 72 years, right? Not great. Stock market with an average 7% return on investment, 20 years compounding at 7%, you'd have $143,484. So how long will it take to double your money? 72 divided by 7, it's like 10.2 years, I think. So over 10 years. And, oops. let's talk about real estate. What can you earn with real estate? I'm going to give an example of two single family houses from Cleveland for 100,000 each, 200,000 total assets. A down payment of 50,000, 25%. Renting out 1,550 a month, times 5. I don't know whatever right there. So sorry, it should be 1,050 per month times 2, which is 3,750, and or about 45,000 a year. So, and if you're thinking you can't buy a house for $100,000, actually in Ohio, you can. There are houses that cheap. Okay, so the first year, you would make about $1,167 a month in cash flow after expenses, 14,000 a year in year one, and assuming that your expenses go up 3% a year and your income goes up 3% a year, which is historical averages, you're looking at a total profit after 20 years and selling them at of $640,000, 130. Not bad. So I am not going to go through this apartment syndication, but let's talk about 20% interest. How long will it take you to double your money? Well, a little over three years. So definitely you want to look at your interest rate. Lesson 2 is you want to buy assets, not liabilities. And an asset is something that puts money into your pocket. Liability takes money out of your pocket. And lesson 3, you want to learn to use your leverage and debt wisely. So we talked about debt before. You can borrow money for investment purposes, not to buy just crap, right? Shoes and purses and things that don't give you money back, but you can use debt to buy, like for your money to make you money. And also an investment in yourself can be one of your best investments. Warren Buffett says the best investment you can make is an investment in yourself. The more you'll learn, the more you'll earn. You want to avoid using debt for liabilities and due debts, right? So lesson 4 is have a wealth and financial freedom mindset. So it's so much of our success. Bob Proctor says 95% of, if success is 95% psychology, only 5% strategy. So you want to have a mindset that will help you be successful. Wealth is a mindset. It's all about how you think. Money is literally attracted to you or repelled from you. That's David Shermer. And it's really important that you have that mindset. We spend so much time in our Millionaire Real Estate Investor Goddesses program on that mindset piece. Napoleon Hill of Think and Grow Rich says, if you do not see great riches in your imagination, you'll never see them in your bank balance. So there's a science to this and a technology to it. And so it's important to learn that for financial freedom. So this is the financial freedom formula, which brings in all of those different pieces we talked about. Financial freedom equals multiple income streams times compound interest times leverage times mindset. Right? So it's really important that you have all of those pieces. And I'm going to stop my screen sharing for now. So that's a financial freedom formula. Thank you for joining today. I really encourage you to implement these lessons. Share this episode with anyone that you know who's looking to build wealth. And I invite you to join me next week. We're going to be doing a webinar next Wednesday evening. I'm going to put the link in the comments on how to create financial security in an uncertain world. So we're going to give you some really practical tools and mindset pieces to help you to do that, regardless of who's in the White House, regardless of what the interest rates are. How do you create that financial security? So definitely join me for that. Thank you for getting real with me today. Let's get real, build wealth, and stay real. Have a great day. Bye. Thanks for coming.